This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to the And They're Off. Seth Merrow and Anthony Mormino in here on this Sunday morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
For the second time.
Yes.
Because we just wrapped up the handicappers report. Let me alert you to what's coming up on today's show. Obviously, mostly Oaks and Derby conversation. We wait all year for this to happen, and so we will be focusing on that a little bit later on. Our friend Steve Bick, who has been in Louisville for the past couple of weeks with the SiriusXM radio show At the Races. We'll talk to him, get some of his impressions over the last couple of days. And then if you run down on the side of the screen, the topics, you'll see NYRA there. Actually, that's going to be Andrew Dembski. Last day at Tampa Bay Downs. So we'll get a little meet recap from Andrew. We reached out to the folks at NYRA, and it just didn't timing-wise.
I thought we were going to play taps for the inner.
Well, and that's exactly what the game plan is going to be, and we'll talk about that probably next weekend. We'll hit on it a little bit today if you haven't heard about it, but there are some changes coming at Aqueduct, but we just couldn't get the timing right with the NYRA people. So, again, we'll try to plug somebody in next week. But
maybe we'll get them after the Belmont, the day after.
Yeah, that's right. They'll have plenty of time then. But Andrew Dembski, we'll talk a little bit, as I say, about Tampa closing today. Maybe give a couple ideas for today as well, as they are in their closing. I love Tampa. I hate to see it go. The last, really, yeah, it is the last of the winter tracks. Fairgrounds gone, Oaklawn gone.
Boy, you East Coast bias people.
Oh, Santa Anita isn't a...
Turf Paradise.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Once again, that East Coast bias comes out.
I'm trying to think of what they're...
November to Memorial Day.
Yeah, yeah, okay. They would qualify. I'm going to say you go to Memorial Day, though. It's kind of like they're in a funny... It's a funny situation.
Well, there's no circuit.
But, yeah. But, yeah, you're right. So that'll be the conversation for today. But let's get right into it. Kentucky Derby. We'll have the replay, and I will alert you. Keep your eyes on number 2, Thunder Snow, who freaks out. But maybe more importantly, as they come out of the gate, keep your eyes on number 14, Classic Empire. They focused on it on the NBC broadcast yesterday. Classic Empire gets the worst of it coming out of the gate. With that gap between the two gates, there's room. And subsequently, McCracken comes over and kind of gives him a good whack. So he was up against it a little bit.
I thought McCracken ran well, too, also. Another horse against the bias coming to one race, I think. Here they are.
Mine's up. Number 5 is going to be Always Dreaming, and a great ride by John Velasquez. And you could see after the race, it meant a lot to both Velasquez and Pletcher to team up for a Kentucky Derby because they have been so prominent in New York as a team for years and years and years that it was special to them to be together on this one. Always Dreaming for me was in that mix of horses I didn't use but I thought could run big, and of that mix, he was pretty much the only one. Oh, Classic Empire with the 4th place finish was in that mix as well. I said earlier on the handicappers report, I whiffed because I liked Gunnevera over Irish War Cry. I had Thunder Snow in my mix and Untrapped, and really I never got a really whiff at any point in the race. But I had said earlier this week that given the fact that I used those 4, and there were another 5 that I thought were logical, Always Dreaming, Classic Empire, McCracken, Tapwrit, and J-Boy's Echo, I'm 9 in a field of 20. So I didn't bet as heavily as I normally would have. But at all the seminars that we did this past week, I said Always Dreaming, off of that last race down at Gulfstream, was certainly eligible to run big. Sure. And he did.
Yeah, he did. That was the one thing. I always wanted. I think John Velasquez. He's not giving back the win on Animal Kingdom, but it was kind of a unfortunate way he got the mount at the last minute on Robbie Alvarado's thing. So, and as you said, and Jerry Bailey said it, Batman and Robin in New York for the last 15 years. And I thought I had, for about 5 strides, I thought here, but I'm like...
You're coming up the rail, right?
Yeah, those white bridles never give it up. If they're in contention late, I never feel confident. He tries to get off the rail, which I think was very good. That's Classic Empire in the middle of the racetrack, coming on after a rough trip, and actually Always Dreaming extends from Looking at Lee. Battle of Midway for Hollendorfer runs well. Practical Joke held on longer than I thought he could. And as I said, to my way of thinking, I think Looking at Lee, Always Dreaming, I think they got the preferred trip around the course, call it bias, whatever you like. And I thought that Classic Empire in a big way and McCracken in a small way got all the worst of it, in my opinion. Like I say this all the time about the Derby. You know, it's a race that betting, it has to be very different from other races up until the Breeders' Cup about taking the rubber band off the bankroll because of the payouts that are out there. You have to step out. But to me, you can't like everybody. So for me, you know, and I'm not a pick 3, pick 4, pick 5 player. So to me, it's about the exactas and tries. I can't afford the superfectas, even taking the rubber band off. You know, to me, I make 3 horses are my keys, and one of the 3 has to win the race. And then I have horses that I toss from winning the race, and that's where Always Dreaming fell. I tossed Always Dreaming, Classic Empire, Practical Joke, Gervin. You know, these, you know, just weren't going to be on my ticket in the win place, and, you know, that's it. And like I said, Looking at Lee, oh, this would be something interesting. Maybe Steve almost always has it. I made a prediction that the buyer would be 94. I'm sure it's higher than that, but I won't believe it. Doesn't matter. I think this is a slow crop. I'll also point this out, Seth, and I think this goes back to the 20s. This is probably the first time that the year was a 7 that I think this is a weak crop. The 7s have been magical group. 2007, 97, 87, 77, 67, 57. I think it's a bad group. I think Always Dreaming I think it was his day, and I'm not so sure he'll have a glittering career off of the wet, fast racetrack.
Also want to congratulate the Connections. I think the Connections are a great story. You have the New York Connections who...
Florida Panthers.
Keep it real for Brooklyn, but also our friends at West Point were involved. We saw Terry Finley on the NBC broadcast right after the race, so congratulations to our friends at West Point. That was certainly fun for them.
Tom Bellhouse touching the trophy.
Yeah, and always fun to root for the guys at West Point who are pretty much locally based, the main part of the group. So congratulations to them for buying in before the Florida Derby. I mean, got in right as the horse stepped into Stakes Company. Always Dreaming now 4 for 6 lifetime.
Brokers made to Tampa.
Yeah, we'll hit on that with Andrew Dembski. So there is a Tampa Bay Downs tie-in there. But we have a few seconds left in this segment. We'll run it into the next segment so the guys can start the clock again, because our next segment is kind of Derby topics as well.
Where's Mick to kick me?
But the floor manager not in this week, but we'll keep it rolling. But Always Dreaming, you alluded to it. How Triple Crown chances, and the question for
0.
me is, it's a Todd Pletcher horse with only a 2-week layoff to the Preakness, so
Super Saver
becomes that for me is one of the big question marks. I think he's talented enough. It's just we'll see.
Until a latter point, and I always tell people one thing about my bias things is, even, you know, I'm not usually as injured by being wrong, because Always Dreaming is going to get bet the next time. Now, Classic Empire isn't going to be 17-1 wherever he shows up next, because he's the goods. But it's not like I'm going to go, oh my goodness, I don't have Always Dreaming at 8-5 in the Preakness, in case no, it wasn't the inside. He has evolved. You know, the light bulb went off. He's a different horse. The Florida Derby front end, you know, being on the front end of the Kentucky Derby. I'm not going to, he's not going to be 17-1 like Charismatic was when he won the Preakness, who wasn't that big a price, but he was a big price off of the Derby. But, till it works out, I'm going to be looking at, that Always Dreaming and Looking at Lee were benefited by the trips. And Classic Empire in particular was injured by the trip and not injured as in sideline. McCracken, bad start. I thought actually Ian Wilkes had, all things considered, he was okay. And I'm even going to give a little bone to the second choice in the wagering. Irish War Cry, who, if you believe that Speed held, you'd be like, well, why was he so awful? Now, this also, Seth, contributes to my thinking that Inside was good. I think Irish War Cry is very talented. And based on his pedigree, I don't think the moisture should have hurt him. And he was right on the pace. I wouldn't have asked for any place to be other than the fact that I thought, well, I'd rather be inside. And I thought him running on the 3.5 or 4 path injured his chances going forward.
Comments after the race from the Connections. Rajiv said, I was right there, got the trip, and top of the stretch. I think I'm in a great
spot.
Not
trading places with anybody.
He's going, and then he was going, and then all of a sudden he wasn't going. And Graham
because you could see his silks, because he was up front, his silk still looked clean as he was dropping back, and I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, going forward for some of these horses.
How about Gervin?
Gervin,
I mean,
that's one of those that, again,
I know it was 22-1, but man.
Again, though, one of the situations of you don't want that ding in the last 2 weeks. It's just historically we've seen it. Let's hit. We talked a little bit, and I texted back and forth with people over the past couple of days. I do text occasionally.
No Twitter, but you text.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, no Twitter, but I do text. The odds to me. I mean, there were.
I've been talking about this for 7 years.
A few in here that were just totally screwy, and the one to me that really jumped
out.
Sonneteer
was lesser priced than J-Boy's Echo. The maiden was 39-1. The winner of the Gotham, who got a triple-digit figure, was nearly 50-1.
And the other one that stood out, Patch, 14-1. 14-1. And it may have been explained by the post parade where they came out, and as they announced Patch, the crowd cheers, and the guys on the NBC broadcast said the One Eye story is pulling people in. But
Neto said yesterday, Handicap Report, they did something at Good Morning America for him.
Okay, maybe that played into it because that's inexplicable.
I never watched pregame.
14-1 on Patch. Just it seems crazy. I will also say
the price I would have taken on a head-to-head looking at Lee and Patch. Like, you would have to give me odds, and I'd have been going to the. I'll tell you 14, one thing.
Looking at Lee is 33
of all the bets we've evolved into in racing, head-to-head in the Kentucky Derby, I would be lined up from here to Tipperary to bet those. Why don't we get head-to-heads in the Derby?
Yeah, that's head-to-heads is just normally make do that, making one of those parlay sheets like they have in football.
Right,
you could have,
it's 20. You could have. What, 190 different combinations?
Yeah, I think
head-to-heads.
Like I say, a little parlay sheet would be big at the racetrack,
particularly for
novices. Can
we patent it? I think that's a good idea. I got to tell you something. I think that's the greatest idea.
I've been saying it for a while.
This should be head-to-head in the Kentucky Derby.
The seminars I did this week, I always like to take a little shot, just a fun shot. Who I think is going to finish last. I said Fast and Accurate. It wasn't too far off. But I said it's a tough bet because coming down the lane, going winners, they're all trying to win. But at the end of the race, if you're done,
they stand up.
But my bet's done when Thunder Snow freaks out. Then I know I'm not going to get last.
What used to be one of my favorite days in newspapers would be this morning getting the Times Union as a kid. They had that shot of the stretch at Churchill Downs, and they had all the names on the horses.
They would have the 5. They would have the various places. Maybe
that was another one. That would be inside.
Courier
That's
Journal
a great picture. But I would wake up on Sunday morning, and there would be almost the whole field. In those days, it would be like 14 horses, 12 horses, and they'd have all the
labeled.
name. I'm like, oh, what a great life.
All right, we'll head to a break. When we come back, our buddy Steve Bick, he was live in Louisville for a couple of weeks. We'll get his thoughts on Oaks Derby weekend right after this. Stay with us.
TV Network.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. CapitalOTB.com offers live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, and a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform. And best of all, you get track prices. Going on now, it's Bet 50, Get 50. Simply open a Capital Bets account, bet $50, and get $50 cash back. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Not at the track and not near a computer? No problem. Wager with Capital OTB's Touch-Tone Wagering System and you'll never get shut out again. Capital OTB's Touch-Tone Wagering System is quick, simple to use, and guarantees your wagers are accurate and placed on time. For more information, visit CapitalOTB.com or call Capital OTB's customer service hotline at 800-292-BETS. Capital OTB's Touch-Tone Wagering System. Never get shut out again. In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today. Now get all the racing information you need right on your mobile device with Capital OTB's new mobile app. Wager anytime, anywhere, right from your smartphone or tablet. Watch, wager, and win right at your fingertips. The new Capital OTB mobile app.
Back to And They're Off. Seth Merrill and Anthony Marmino in the studio, but we are joined by phone now by Steve Bick. He has been in Louisville for a couple of weeks with At the Races on Sirius and XM. It's a great way to lead into the race, to listen to Steve every day. Gets the scoop on what's happening in the mornings, and certainly I know from listening over the past couple of weeks, a nice bunch of nuggets given out, certainly on some of the undercard stakes races. Good morning, Steve. We're losing you, Steve.
Well, I'm here.
There we go. There we go. Now we got you.
We got you.
Give us a little bit, before we get into the races specifically, the weather was a big issue starting back on Thursday. Give us a little breakdown of what the weather was like Thursday and Friday. And then yesterday it seemed to kind of turn around, but not enough to dry out the track. But just set the scene a little bit on what the 2 days, Oaks and Derby Day, were like overall.
Well, Friday was bad. I mean, Friday was freezing cold and nasty as can be, and it was as unpleasant as you could possibly imagine, and that at least mitigated somewhat into Saturday. And then, frankly, the middle portion of the day, Saturday, got very nice and surprisingly nice. There was hope that we'd get a fast track by Derby, but that micro burst, there was one last random set of storms, and frankly, it could have been worse. There was a hailstorm that skirted Louisville, and instead we just got that one last batch of heavy rain, and that doomed a fast track. But as always, that track is so strong in terms of fairness when it comes to, whatever condition it's in. The clay content makes footing very good, and you had pretty much fair races. You did have that inside that was very, very strong. I mean, there were a couple of places, obviously, over the weekend where horses that got down against the rail benefited immensely. But for the most part, if you were good enough, you could come from almost anywhere.
And again, just before we get to the races, give me your thoughts, because given the track conditions, I was kind of surprised they set some betting records yesterday.
That was stunning to me. They did $209 million. It's the first time they've eclipsed the $200 million mark, and I think even Churchill officials were surprised at how strong the handle was. And I heard that number and I was amazed. But, listen, it's some of the best sets of races you're going to get all year long. It rivals Breeders' Cup, and from every perspective, I mean, the fact that turf course, you basically were able to run all but 2 races on the grass over the weekend. That was pretty remarkable in itself. So, you shrug. They play this game outdoors. There's little you can do. You can't worry about it. If you want to play, you play. If not, you can wait for a dry, fast day, any other time.
All right, let's get into it. We'll take it from the start. Again, the Kentucky Derby, we watched it a little bit earlier. Thunder Snow with the freak out early was an interesting story because we said at the top of the show, can't remember ever seeing that happen before exactly, but to have it happen in the Derby was intriguing to say the least. And then Always Dreaming is out there pressing the pace, kind of takes them all the way around for John Velazquez and Todd Pletcher. Todd Pletcher, I know you've talked about it on your show a number of times. That 1-for-45 was a misleading number given some of the horses he had taken to the race, as opposed to this one who came in with clearly a level of talent that he proved on Saturday. He's going to win. Looking at Lee, comes up that rail. And hats off, you might not have heard the NBC broadcast, but on the walkover, they talked to Mark Casse, and he said, you know what, I'm a little bit worried. Seems to be an inside bias. And that was certainly proven by looking at Lee, who rode on the inside most of the way around to a good second-place finish. But overall, just give us your thoughts on the Derby.
Well, the story on the Derby, it starts and finishes with Todd Pletcher foremost. And I'm tired of the 1-for-45 stupidity. How could a guy be 1-for-45 when he's only participated in, 15 of them? If people can't appreciate, he can only win the race with one horse. So that whole thing is just idiotic. The fact that he was able to take a horse who was sitting on edge for 10 days, every morning this horse was ready to run off. And every move Todd has made for a guy that is criticized and ridiculed constantly about getting his horses ready for this race, he basically shoved it up everybody's ass. And I got to tell you, I was exceedingly happy for him. And he got very emotional about this. I think the win with Johnny is particularly sweet for the two of them who have won over 1,600 races together. And though they both had a Derby coming in, the Animal Kingdom and Super Saver, respectively, getting this Derby together really was, I think, something that they would have felt careers would have been incomplete if they didn't get one of these. But the way in which Pletcher changed up, moving Adele Bellinger off the horse, putting Nick Bush on, a physically stronger rider, working in the draw reins to keep the horse's head down low and basically not allowing him to expend energy and be too hyper coming into the race, then taking them off and Johnny perfectly getting him to relax off of the State of Honor. You could see on the backstretch, one of the things we talked about leading in, that he had potential to turn this into a war emblem kind of a run. That's exactly what he did. And, yes, the track is a little gimmicky. Whenever you deal with a wet track, you have to take the results at face value. But this horse was also perfectly pitched for this performance. And from that standpoint, you just stand up and applaud. The rest of it behind, Classic Empire actually, with plenty of trouble. I had trouble seeing him or even noticing him. I was actually surprised when I saw the 14 go up on the board as fourth. I thought Battle of Midway is a story that deserves some credit. Jerry Hollendorfer comes in. Everybody had said that even though the Santa Anita Derby seemed like a weak prep coming in, Battle of Midway had run the better race than Gormley in the Santa Anita Derby. Battle of Midway had a very good week at Churchill, and I thought he ran a whale of a race. Looking at Lee did exactly what Steve Asmussen has been saying for months, that this horse would not show his best until he got 1.25 miles. Then he got the draw that everybody hates, but a horse that could easily parlay that draw into a top performance, had the right jockey in Corey Lannery, who is basically a magnet for the rail. He knew exactly what to do. The race was pretty fairly run. McCracken took the worst of it with a incident when Gormley and Classic Empire came together and squeezed him. He ended up getting kicked and got a big gash over his knee, so we'll see how he comes out of it. I thought Joel Rosario rode a brilliant race on Practical Joke to get from the 19 hole to manage to get down inside and save all that ground and get us the last significant check at finishing fifth. That was terrific. Now Cloud Computing takes over for that team in Baltimore. All in all, a very satisfying Derby. I don't think there's anything that you could come away and say, this was unfair, this was, biased. It was a wet track. Yeah, that happened. But overall, a very, to me, impressive circumstance under, fairly stressful conditions.
All right, Steve, just one more thing before we get to the Oaks. As a guy who has been on looking at Lee, I think in the 35 years that the field size of the Derby has gotten this large, no one has ever gotten a softer trip from the one hole than looking at Lee received.
Well, that's the beauty of having a horse that's going to fall out of it early and come with the run. And you knew exactly what he was going to have to do. And all I can do is point people to Steve Asmussen's comments, whether with me or in print, where he just said, this horse wants a classic distance. He's going to get better as the distances stretch out. He kept chipping away, and a very nice second. Steve Asmussen now is a guy that he and Dale Romans, the spotlight turns to them to get their Derby. They're both due for one.
All right, Abel Tasman, Bob Baffert, scintillating pace in the Oaks, and she scores the victory.
Well, this story is pretty fascinating, too, because here's Baffert, where he doesn't have a Derby horse, and that became a story as we got closer, and it became evident that his horses were falling away, and probably Mastery, you can speculate, where he would have fit in to all of this. The job he did getting Abel Tasman, another deep closer, getting her ready, and I was a little dismissive of her, and I kind of was kicking myself as she was storming out the track because I was at the Starlet at the Roselle and really liked the story at Clear Sky Farms, the breeder, and Simon Callahan, and all the nice things that went on with this filly as a 2-year-old. Baffert, as I said to him when I shook his hand, I said, "You're unbelievable." And he said, "Why?" Because I know what to do with a good horse, and I thought that was, really an appropriate line. And let's also fold into this the incredibly stupid riding up front. And Flavia Pratt, who is obviously a kid that's got tremendous talent and is going to be a big-time rider for a long time in this country, he and Paco Lopez, that was so stupid, it boggles the imagination. I mean, there was no reason for them. I mean, yes, they were two of the better horses, and especially Paradise Woods, but to be winging it like that, it wasn't necessary. They could have looked at each other and backed it down on the backstretch. Instead, they turned up the pressure, and they guaranteed that neither of them were going to be around for the real running, and that's exactly what happened, and it opened the door for the deep closer. So a complete pace collapse in one race in terms of the Oaks, and for the Derby, a slightly different story where horses came from all parts of the track.
All right, Steve, we got to wrap it up, but we appreciate the recaps, and mostly we appreciate your work down there the past couple of weeks. Another yeoman's job, and when do you head down to Baltimore?
Well, we'll be in Baltimore starting, next Monday, a week from Monday. We'll spend the week in Baltimore, and we'll see where things go. One thing I'll remind people of, not to take away anything from Always Dreaming, but just remember the wet track Derby winners that looked so good coming out of Derby.
Awful.
Think about Super Saver and Orb. Really, the only one that came back and ran a big race off the wet track was Mind That Bird, who of course would have been a Derby Preakness winner without Rachel Alexandra's involvement. So keep in mind Orb and Super Saver.
Steve, the last 5 winners on an off racetrack combined won one race, Smarty Jones Preakness.
Well put. I think that's a storyline that people need to be reminded of instead of just automatically anointing this horse who's very nice. Not to take away anything, but just remember you are dealing with a surface that does shift the landscape.
Travel safely, Steve.
Yeah, get home safe.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, Steve Bick again did a great job down there as he does every year with the radio show.
If we get a chance, we could run it back. If not, it doesn't matter about the Oaks, just the stretch or something. But I want to point out to the people, and this is where me personally, take it what you will, here it is. Lockdown, who ran 3rd in the Oaks.
Number 2 horse.
Yes. In pace meltdowns, the bias, I think, is less important because if you've ever been exhausted, that's important. But Lockdown, who's down inside, getting squeezed, running about the middle of the pack, the pink cap, getting good position. Seth, to me, it's not only horses that win, but when 40-to-1 shots come up the rail. Now, if you had watched the racing on Friday, you had seen other horses make this move. My point being that Abel Tasman won the race in the middle of the racetrack, mostly because of the pace scenario. And by the way, I like the Abel Tasman, so I hit the Oaks, so that's good for me. I don't hit the Oaks Derby double, naturally, because that would have only come back 300. Abel Tasman ran well against Unique Bella. And then you throw out Paradise Woods. When horses freak, I'm often a one-off until you show me. Because once again, what happens, Seth? You get a bad price.
It's
you
funny,
get 6 to 5.
In the seminars we did, Brian and I both took a shot against Paradise Woods.
Yes.
And a couple of days before, it seemed like everybody was. And I thought, you're looking and you're seeing 5-2 on the morning line. And I thought, I don't care. Even with people taking shots against, they're going to look at that buyer, and if people see 5-2, she's going to get bet down to that 6-5, and that's exactly what she went off at. And I think, as Steve alluded to, that 22 opening fraction.
Well, one thing, because Lockdown now has moved in the 3-path, but Jose Ortiz has one place he wants to go, and he's going to get it. And often this can be death, but I fervently believe. You watch all the races, and it's not just about Abel Tasman winning in the 3 or 4 path. Lockdown coming up the rail and running well late. I think the rail was awesome. I think Steve makes a great point. I got to tell you something. Unless I see something dramatic, I'll be happy to bet against Always Dreaming coming forward. And Abel Tasman, I do think, is a nice 3-year-old filly. It was a meltdown. It was an off racetrack. The 3-year-old fillies in the Oaks is much different than the 3-year-old colts, which find kind of a system. They really scatter.
And I will say, I didn't read too much about the Abel Tasman story from earlier this year in the recap.
The laundry issue. And I love Simon.
Hard to root. You can't hold it against the horse, but if for folks who didn't hear the story, it was after a stakes race at Santa Anita earlier this year, the horse went out in the wrong silks, which was not the fault of the trainer, as the story went. But subsequently, the owners took it away from the trainer and gave it to Bob Baffert, and the horse goes on to win the Kentucky Oaks. Like I said, I didn't read too much about that last day, but worth noting. All right, we'll head to a break. When we come back, we will complete our look at Derby and Oaks weekend and much, much more. Stay tuned.
You're watching And They're Off on the OTB TV network.
You hear that? It's the winds of change.
With more than 60 Easy Bet and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all Easy Bet and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB. We're closer than you think.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit RTN.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Championship horse racing continues at Capital OTB. There's no better place to watch, wager, and win than OTB TV and CapitalOTBBet.com.
Welcome back to And They're Off. Some of the other notable performances over the weekend. I thought in the Humana Distaff, Paula Silverlining got out there on the lead and held off Finest City. Karina Mia runs third. I think all three of those will be players in that subdivision.
By the way, you should have seen the look Brian Nadeau shot me when I said Paula Silverlining is better than I thought. I hope we have that in the archives for future.
And again, I think they'll all be players in the. I think Karina Mia, who was kind of in the upper echelon of 3-year-olds, they probably decided this is more what we're going to look at.
Turn.
I'm kicking myself. American Turf, Arklow. I liked Arklow in the 3-year-old dirt races down at the fairgrounds. Then when the horse moved to the turf last time, I liked the horse. I couldn't pull the trigger yesterday, and I kind of kicked myself
Brian Nadeau said how good he was at Keeneland.
Yeah, Turf Classic Divisadero looked very good.
4-star Dave Angle.
Horse for a course. So again, some nice
two-time winner of the Woodford Classic and winner of the American Turf. That
should also go back to Friday. Speaking of nice turf performances, La Coronel, I thought was a nice performance.
One thing I want to
would have liked to have seen her go the next day and face the boys, but looked pretty good.
One thing I want to say to our audience out there, I think most of us, we kind of cringe with the angles that sports media television gives us versus what we're used to. But I will say this about the Edgewood and La Coronel. They had an awkward shot, but in this one time it helped. It really showed me how good she is nimble. She was about to get put in a bad spot. It's one of those bad angles for watching a race under normal conditions, but she just showed herself. She tiptoed out in 2 strides, and I'm like, she's got an awful lot of game. So I was very impressed. That was one time when it helped us. If you find the NBC, you can see the trouble starting to come, and she's like, I don't think so. And here's the other thing I mentioned. The entry ran 1-2. Florent Giroux got the mount on La Coronel. Leparoux took the other filly. I didn't get that. I missed that. But enough of that. Let's go to the familiar silks of Michael Tabor. As often happens, the Guineas at Newmarket run in the morning of the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it's a mile on the turf.
Straight.
Over 600,000 up. Yeah, and at Newmarket. Churchill's going to be the number 3 horse in here. Goes off the favorite. Came into the race with 5 wins and 6 career starts. Ran 3rd in the career debut. It's Aidan O'Brien. It's Tabor, Smith, and Magnier. So Churchill, obviously destined for very good things.
Let me just give the audience, because it's showing. He's in the middle of the racetrack now in the familiar Thunder Gulch Silks, but he's going to be down inside. And heck, how could a horse named Churchill not win on Derby Day? But this is the 1 mile straightaway, the first classic. The girls, they're probably going right now in the 1,000 guineas. It's usually about 10:30. But
again, he's in the striped cap.
Yeah. About 4th or 5th now.
He'll be on the rail side.
When he makes his big run, he's down inside. And
Aidan O'Brien, trainer. This is his 8th 2,000 in Guineas victory.
Now, point it out, the guy has not been training for 50 years, folks. I think it's like, do they say what year he won the first one? I want to say like 96.
Yeah, I don't see it in the
Basically,
article.
he's won almost half of them. The last generation. He's probably 8 for 22 or something. So 1 every 3rd year he wins the Guineas. So now Churchill is down inside, smooth sailing here. I haven't got this confirmed. I think this is uphill. It's not as uphill, I think, as the Epsom Derby at Epsom, but I don't think they're running flat anymore. But imagine running a mile straight. He's along the fence. He's good here today. I mean, he never had an anxious moment, and obviously this is where the jock wanted to get to. And Churchill, on Derby Day, wins the 2,000 Guineas, which is the first classic. And I've said this before, Seth, we talk in America the separation between sprinters and classic horses, and in Europe, it's even more pronounced that their Triple Crown doesn't really exist. But forget the St. Leger. The Guineas winner going on to the Epsom Derby, that's what I thought made See the Stars so great. Sometimes these Guinea winners, like Frankel, they have no intention of running a mile and a half in 5 weeks in the Epsom Derby.
And Aidan O'Brien has said the options are the Epsom Derby or the St. James's Palace at Royal Ascot on June 20th. So
at a mile.
Yeah,
the St. James's Palace is Royal Ascot at a mile.
We'll see. And they have a Triple Crown over there, but it is not at the level.
The St.
And
Ledger,
the third leg is,
they just despise it.
The third leg, it just doesn't. There was a horse a couple of years ago.
Tried it.
They gave it.
Yeah, I think he ran 4th.
Yeah. All right, we'll head to one more break.
Shades is coming up.
Shades from Tampa Bay Downs. Andrew Dembski on their closing day right after this.
You're watching And They're Off on the OTB TV network.
Man, what are we, a team? No. We're a chemical mixture that makes chaos.
One we'll never forget. Looked impossible, but it is Zenyatta, still unbeaten under Mike Smith.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
Equestricon.
Equestricon.
The first ever international racing convention.
The first ever. For the fans.
Meet the legends.
The breeders, the owners.
The jockeys like me.
The best of the industry.
Come celebrate racing at Equestricon.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB television network.
Welcome back to And They're Off Sunday morning. A little bit different. Usually we had Andrew Dembski plugged in on Fridays during the Tampa Bay Downs meet, but of course it was Oaks Day on Friday. We didn't have a Racing Across America, but I thought we'd plug them in today. Closing day at Tampa Bay Downs. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Seth. Good to be on the show with you guys today.
Absolutely happy to have you on to do a little meet recap and maybe give some ideas for this afternoon down at Tampa. Before we do that, though, I have to ask, good crowd down at Tampa yesterday for a Tampa live card and Kentucky Derby simulcast, and also, was there a little buzz throughout the building, given that the winner had raced earlier this season down at Tampa?
Yeah, definitely a tremendous crowd here, and it's certainly nice to see Always Dreaming get the job done. Obviously, the buzz was floating around the track with this horse, and everyone kind of hoped, having 4 horses in the Derby that passed through Tampa, I think everyone kind of hoped to see Capret or McCracken in the winner's circle. I think Capret ran a great race, but Always Dreaming, honestly, a horse who I, even after the Florida Derby, was not super high on, got the job done impressively. So, starting to change my opinion, and I think everyone here, management, and everyone was pretty happy to see a horse come from Tampa, or at least break the maiden at Tampa and go on to great things.
Well, Andrew, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here. Do we think he's the first horse to break his maiden at a mile 40 yards and win the Kentucky Derby?
I have to check that, but that's very interesting to bring that up for sure. He seems to be a nice horse, though. I tell you what, when he won by the length of stretch here breaking the maiden, he was impressive that day. So it was just good to see.
Yeah, it was.
Well, one thing that we've known, Andrew, for really like the last decade, Todd Pletcher loves your racetrack with his 3-year-olds. He was probably the first top flight trainer who was happy to go over to Tampa Bay Downs in your entire 3-year-old program, or in this case, break a maiden.
Yeah, I tell you what, throughout the course of our season, we had some maiden fields this year that would rival any track in the country. So some 3-year-old fields. I tell you what, the horses that are being sent here at this point are full of talent. They go on to big things, and I'm happy to be a part of it. To be able to see these horses and see them when they're young, and they do develop into really nice runners. I tell you what, I've been loading up since I've been here 4 years now, guys, and I've been loading up my stable mail with these Tampa horses, and so many go on to big things. So a very cool facility down here with some good trainers sending some real nice animals our way. It's been a tremendous meet, and I hope this continues in the future.
And I'll say this, Andrew, I know based on the calendar of Tampa, December to May, and 3-year-olds and on the dirt it takes a lot of the energy, but you probably have the best turf course, or one of the top 2 or 3 turf courses in America. And I think a lot of the trainers in South Florida have discovered that.
Absolutely, and I tell you right now, I was just looking at this morning. I was out there taking some pictures of the empty grandstand earlier this morning, and I tell you what, the turf course is beautiful now as it was first weekend in November when we started the meet this year. Right? It's just incredible. Our maintenance crew does a tremendous job. All props to them, because to keep it looking as good as it does, and we do run, I think, enough turf races, and it was a very dry winter down here. So we never really had to come off the turf. Maybe 2 days we pulled the races off the turf for some light sprinkles. But other than that, the turf course did, in theory, take a beating, but it does not look like it.
Yeah, and I pulled up the human side of things, the Equibase stats last night, and I was just looking down as you guys were talking, and Todd Pletcher, he started 30 runners this season at Tampa, 10 wins, 19 second-place finishes. So a pretty good season for Mr. Pletcher down there, certainly. But, and I think we have a shot here of Gerald Bennett on the trainer's side. He's going to wind up to be the leading trainer over Kathleen O'Connell. 50 wins for Gerald Bennett, and that's actually Gerald and his son Dale. Dale also one of the top 10 trainers down there this season, but Gerald is on the left in that duo, and then on the left side completely is Dan Centino on the jockey side. 102 wins for him over Edwin Gonzalez at 85, so it's Centino and Bennett. A couple of nice seasons for those two.
Yeah, it really has been a tremendous season once again for Jerry Bennett. Going to make it 2 straight years as our leading trainer. I know he's going to Gulfstream after this. Wish him all the best down there. He obviously targets this meet. He has his horses just ready to go for the Tampa meet, and he just blew them away this year. Everything's been in great shape. He has some real nice horses. Danny Centeno, as you brought up, a tremendous season. He just went up to Philadelphia yesterday, ran 3rd in the Parks Derby up there with the Arnaud Delacour horse Upper Room. He's back here today. Danny Centeno not only going to get the leading trainer award, or leading jockey award rather, for the 6th time here, he is actually 2 wins away from career win 2,500. Oh. So a potential milestone for Danny Centeno today. And if you guys are paying attention to the jockeys, pull for, in race number 2, Ahari Williams, our apprentice rider here, 1 win today to get leading apprentice. So he only has 1 mount. Hopefully he wins it to get the leading apprentice award. That would be nice to end the season getting that award as well.
All right, we like it. And let's jump in and get some ideas for today. Before we do that, give us an update on your weather.
Couldn't be any better, guys. We are high 70s today, fast and firm, little breeze. It's probably the most comfortable day we've had. We've had some hot spells these last couple of weeks with temperatures in the high 90s. But right now, probably the most perfect day to end the season.
Sounds good. Now, I agree with Anthony. I love the turf course down there. Love the turf racing. I hate to see Tampa go. It's one of my favorite tracks to play in the wintertime, and this is one of the races that makes it so. The 4th race today, a maiden claimer, 16 tags, a mile on the grass, with the also eligibles, a field of 14 lined up. 10 will run, but boy, just looks like a great betting event. What did you see in the 4th?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting race because if the 4-horse Little Christian does not win, and by all accounts, he should win, but he probably should have won 2 races back and couldn't get to Alabandis, who was first-time turf, and last time out lost the closest of photos. The margin's ahead. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the photo to believe it's ahead. I think it was just a dirty whisker. I mean, unbelievable. Little Christian not getting the nod that day. Should win the race. But like I said, should have won his last two. So I'm interested in Socceroo, the 5-horse, who had a huge debut. Got claimed last time. He's a lemon drop kid. He's bred well enough. Obviously, you got a lemon drop kid debuting for 16. He's probably not much, but against this field today, fits very well. I think if you run anything back to his debut, or even that second race where Gorse blew the field away, he's got a big shot. And then you have Whiz Kid, 8-horse in here, 8-1 morning line. Bill Sienkiewicz, Scott Spieth gets the call. Horse had no chance in debut, dropped into the bottom level on the turf last time, and opened up early and held very well for third. The horse has a huge stride, fully worked out in preparation for this. This horse is going to be on all my multi-race tickets. I think Whiz Kid, if this horse gets loose, is going to be very interesting today.
All right, let's move on to race number 7. Conditional claimer, 8,000 tags, non-winners of 2 lifetime. In the 7th, they will go 3/4 of a mile.
Yeah, it looks like the horse that was probably going to take money in here, D. Shiflett, is out. And that leaves me with 2 interesting horses. Running on Guinness, the 6-horse, probably should get the job done. Had a lot of trouble last time going long. It doesn't show it in the comment lines. The horse is in all kinds of trouble. Today turns back to a sprint. I do think this horse should have won 3 back when he could not get by 77 Willow. Just hung in the stretch that day. So I'm going to try to beat Running on Guinness. She will be the favorite with a horse named Shot Jack, the 7-horse in here. This thing can run early, and this thing has some serious speed. And I'm really interested if this horse gets loose today with Sammy Camacho, who, by the way, had 4 wins yesterday, so he is riding with a ton of confidence. Sammy Camacho gets the call. This thing could be gone, and could be gone at a price.
Let's move on to the 9th today, another conditional claimer. In the 9th, the tags are 25,000, non-winners of 2 lifetime. This time they're on the grass at 5 furlongs.
Yeah, I think you either can take a stand in here or go pretty deep. The horse that's going to get bet is Triumphant Joy. Stakes place runner, very fast early, dropping into a 25 non-2. He ran behind Egyptian Hero, got crushed by Egyptian Hero, as he should have, 2 starts back. Last time out, couldn't get the job done, but a good race nonetheless, has early speed, class-dropping speed, dangerous. Turf, big question mark for Triumphant Joy. Low Tomlinson for the turf. I'm not sure this horse is going to handle it. I like a horse in Red Hot Looks in here, the 4-horse. Can't head Triumphant Joy. Not fast enough, but is fast enough to be right there with him. And this horse has some early speed, has some success on the turf. 2 seconds from 2 starts on the turf in a non-2 at Laurel in December. Ran a good race, opened up early. The allowance race, I'm not worried on the main track last time out. We're dropping in class. We have early speed. We have turf experience. Red Hot Looks, very intriguing. I think 4-1 holds up there.
Very good. And Andrew, Anthony was telling you during the break he appreciates the style you're showing in the paddock, and I guess in a few weeks we can expect that up at Presque Isle Downs.
Yeah, absolutely. May 21st, we start up there. I will be closer to you guys at that point, I guess. We'll be a couple hours away.
West on I-90, absolutely.
Yeah, and as I said when we talked to you a couple of weeks ago, we had you on with us 2 summers ago as you took a trip down the Turnpike. We expect that to happen again. So alert us when you're in for a visit at Saratoga, and we'll get you live with us on the backstretch.
Absolutely. I make my trip to Saratoga every summer. Last year, I probably told you, it was I think the only day they canceled after 5 races due to rain. So I'll try not to bring the rain this year.
All right. Sounds good. Andrew, again, we appreciate all season long down at Tampa. We'll probably check in occasionally at Presque Isle Downs. And again, thanks for the visit.
All right, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Andrew Dembski, Tampa Bay Downs, wrapping up their season this afternoon. All right, we're rapidly approaching the end of the show, but we have some of the quick hitters here. And as I said at the top of the show, we'll try to get somebody from NYRA in maybe next week or at some point to talk a little bit about this, maybe the privatization that's coming up. Oh, keep in mind, there are some seating options at Saratoga that have become available within this past week and continue to become available in the next week, some different seating options. So we'll talk about that. But I did want to note the news came out. The inner track is going to become a turf course, and winter racing will be conducted over a newly composed main track, which A, offers more turf racing, but B, offers better distances in the winter. Hopefully that'll help field size.
That I think is the key. We'll have 7/8 and a mile, 1-turn races. at the Big A. If you want to know what two turf courses at the Big A looks for, just go on YouTube, look up Foolish Pleasures Wood Memorial. You'll see what it looks like to have 2 turf courses at the Big A. The main track set that Aqueduct had gotten to be about a 15 to 20 day meet in the fall and the spring. So what was the point? I don't know. I guess on a nice day, I guess then they could run like 6 turf races. You know, because the season isn't going to get any longer. The season is just going to be 3 weeks in April, best case scenario, and 3 weeks in November. So on a given day now, they can run 4 to 6 races on the turf. They can run turf sprints that I'm sure they're very interested for field size.
Although I will say, and this has been hinted at in some of the articles, I have sources whispering that this could.
You have sources?
This could make.
Could you get us a horse?
No, that
to bet on.
Unfortunately, not those kind of. But this could make a difference with Belmont and New York racing overall. This could be a significant move that will have, some renovations maybe at Belmont, as they now have some options to run longer, maybe at Aqueduct. But I'll just say, keep that in the back of your mind. That's
quick note that I looked up because I knew it was like 5-6 years ago. Camelot was the Aidan O'Brien horse that actually attempted to win the British Triple Crown 2012.
Also want to tip our cap to Saratoga's own Mary Lou Whitney. She winds up in the winner's circle on Oaks Derby weekend on Friday. Her Birdsong won the Ali Sheba, and Julian Epiro, they were walking the horse around on the track for an awful long time, and I said to the guys in the control room, because I was sitting in there watching the race, I said, I'll bet you Mary Lou Whitney's there. They're probably waiting for her to get to the winner's circle, and sure enough, she and her husband John Hendrickson, you can see her there in the pink and the orange hat in that photo. So again, congratulations again.
Not as well known, but I have been looking at those silks for years. Do you know how they read in the racing form?
Eaton. Right?
Good, that's a fist pump. That's a fist pump.
No, I remember that because
I guess that's where he prepped.
I want to say, probably.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say State Dinner, right? Won the Whitney. Wasn't that a...
Seth Merrill, not your ballywhack, but coming back with 37-year-old stuff.
There you go.
And 1980 Whitney, right?
I don't know the year, but I remember his colors won the Whitney.
Silver Buck in 82?
Yeah.
Give the trophy to yourself.
And I also wanted to, because it is Kentucky Derby weekend, I wanted to go back and show a race. Actually, there was some nice performances from Belmont yesterday, but I wanted to show the Sheep's Head Bay. Yeah, because C. Khaleesi certainly, man, she makes a nice late run in here. C. Khaleesi's going to be the number 7 horse.
You know her problem in life is, don't you?
Look at the Chicklets. And she was way back, and then kind of makes a run in here.
You know, it's all about one thing for her, don't you? It's just Lady Eli. That's her. That's her. Whatever it's called in life that you have to chase. She, I got it. That's her white whale. That's her white whale. Is C. Khaleesi. And so all this is a prelude to someday, getting her.
She came over and won the Sheep's Head Bay, coming from Europe last year, followed up with a repeat performance in it this year for Chad Brown.
Good in the Flower Bowl.
I just wanted to show that one because, again, on Derby weekend, you float under the radar. Yeah. Mention also Connect looked good for Chad yesterday as well. I think he could be an intriguing player.
I might have underestimated him.
Could be an intriguing player in the handicap division. We'll see. I mean, these, there are bigger and better things out there. All right, before we go, I sent one more.
Well, that's got to be his prep for this Met Mile. That's got to be right in his wheelhouse.
Oh,
that's 5 weeks out.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I didn't read follow-up articles.
Yes.
We were talking, and while we were talking earlier, you mentioned it, and I pulled it up. The Derby buyer, 102, preliminary, 102.
Fake.
102.
It's a 94.
It always is for the Derby, right? They want.
They're not putting up a 92. What your man Giacomo never ran within 10 points of his Derby number.
One of the seminars, somebody said to me, "What do you think the buyer will be?" I said,
94.
It's going to be over 100.
It's got to be
somehow.
I think Drosselmeyer was the first Classic winner to get a 99 when he won the Belmont.
Yeah, and what we're alluding to is I just don't think they want the number for these big races
94.
for these notable to be down at like a 92. So they massage a little bit, maybe. And just before we go, I sent the guys a picture from last night because I'm the proud uncle. The Bentonville Film Festival. Oh, man.
That's it?
It's like postage stamp size.
You better tell it. You've been in television your whole life.
Now I have to read it up, which is fine. Now there's my nephew down in the bottom left and his
How
wife.
do you know?
Well, I've seen the picture. But he lives out in L.A. and he and his wife have self-produced a couple of films, and they were at the Bentonville Film Festival.
He lives in L.A. and you don't we go to dinner or something. You don't want to hook us up or something. You didn't tell me he lives in Los Angeles.
No, well, I'll get you hooked up.
All right.
Get you hooked up.
I think it's nice.
You can take him to a game if you got an empty seat.
Absolutely.
But last night, Bentonville Film Festival. It's the Gina Davis Film Festival. They won the Audience Choice Award with their film Parker's Anchor.
Good job.
As an uncle, job. I had to applaud that a little bit last night. All right, we'll head to the end of the program here, and they're off here every Sunday morning from 10 until 11 a.m. Do want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program, some of the other programming on the network. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Again, we appreciate their sponsorship. All right. I guess we're going to wind things up. You got any last thoughts?
No, it's Preakness time.
Yeah, that's it. You're exactly right. Today, we kind of put Derby Oaks in the rearview mirror, shift our attention to Preakness, and it's going to be very interesting. Again, Todd Pletcher coming off the off track, and with, more importantly to me, the only 2 weeks for Todd Pletcher, which is clearly not in his wheelhouse.
I'm on board with you. I'm going to be interested to see how many go, because you kind of don't think you get a fair run on the off going, and 5 weeks to the Belmont. I hope 6 or 8 go from the Derby.
It's always fun, though. Rooting for Always Dreaming, because then that makes the Belmont extra special. Okay, we will wind things up for this edition. Again, excuse me, enjoy the races this afternoon. Let's all cash some tickets. See you next week at 10 o'clock.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.